What's up guys, this is Kephas, and I am here today to talk to you about the Diablo 3 Necromancer and compare it to the Diablo 2 Necromancer, because I'm a big Necromancer fan and I was really excited about the Diablo 3 Necromancer that has finally come out. I've been waiting for this for a while, and it's been out for a little bit, and the season started, and it's been out for a little bit too, and I finally leveled up my Diablo 3 Necromancer to level 70, and I've gotten a little bit of armor. A little bit of the, I guess this is the closest thing to a pet set. It's the set that you get from doing the season journey thing or whatever it's called, and so I've gotten some of it, and I feel like I've gotten enough now, and I've experienced a little bit to finally talk about it and compare it to the Diablo 2 Necromancer. Now, I don't really want to, I want to try to be as unbiased as I can, but I don't think I want to be able to do that because I do have an opinion. It's my opinion, and I want to share it with you in terms of which Necromancer I prefer, what I was looking for when I knew Blizzard was going to put Necromancers in Diablo 3, and did they deliver on that, and did they live up? Does the Necromancer, for me, live up to the Necromancer of Diablo 2? Now, I'm going to focus exclusively on the Summonancer style of Necromancer play. That is the building up of a skeletal undead army to just unleash crazy havoc on all the enemies surrounding me, and I just kind of stand there and look pretty while they do all the work. That's kind of the idea. That's what I was hoping for, because that's what I enjoyed in Diablo 2. Of course, there are lots of other fun builds that you can experience. You can do poison, you can do bones, and all kinds of other cool stuff, just as you could in Diablo 2. But I think that for myself, and I think I speak for a lot of people, when we think of Necromancer, we think of army of minions that wreak havoc, and that's, I think, what a lot of us were hoping for when Blizzard announced that they were going to bring Necromancers to Diablo 3. Did they deliver on that? Well, we're going to find out today. But before we get into the Diablo 3 Necromancer, why don't we go back and look at what it's like to play a Diablo 2 Necromancer. Now, this is the legendary Diablo 2, and as you can see, it obviously looks quite different from Diablo 3, of course, because it's a much older game, but it plays very different compared to the Diablo 3 Necromancer as well as the general game itself. So what I've done is, this is a single player game. I hadn't actually leveled up a Necromancer. I made a Necromancer and used Hero Editor to give myself stats and good gear that I'm using. I've got all kinds of good stuff here. I've got Enigma, Shaco, all the classics, all the good stuff, Mage Fist, Marowak, and so my stats are a little bit high, and then I've got skills, but it's nothing that's too super outlandish, just a lot of extra skills. Now, this is the old school skill tree. If you've never played Diablo 3 before, or Diablo 2 before, this is what skill trees used to be like. You had 3 tiers. You put points in, you got points as you leveled up, and some quests would give you some skill points as well, and you would build out a build with your skill points. You couldn't have every ability. This is just kind of like what I'm doing just for demonstration purposes, but you could, usually you'd cap out skill points at 20, unless you had different items to augment, plus to skills, plus the summoning skills in my case, or just plus the skills in general. As you can see here, the Shaco alone gives me +2 to all skills. So, and then I have other things that also give me plus the skills, plus the Necromancer summoning skills. So there you go. That's where a lot of those come from. Of course, you've also got Kephas, which gives me +1 to all skills. So a lot of my items that I have are items that you can get in the game that would give you plus the skills. Which was a huge thing, because even though you'd cap out at 20, you could extend beyond that with items that would make your abilities even more powerful. And so that was the case here with the Necromancer, with summoning especially. Now, I've always kind of especially when Diablo 3 came out, I've preached about how the Diablo 2 skill tree is outdated. This kind of gameplay is old school, so there's no need for this kind of putting points in a skill tree kind of stuff. It's kind of old. But honestly, now that I've come back and experienced this a little bit, I actually kind of see that I was a little bit wrong in thinking that way. To be honest, there's a lot of benefits to having a skill tree because there's a very strong sense of progression when you start putting points in this and seeing how your abilities become stronger and change over the course of time. I think that if you have a skill tree like this and you do it effectively, skill trees can be quite fun and enjoyable even for a modern game. I wouldn't count this system out entirely just yet. For example, we're looking at Raised Skeleton here, which is in the new game. It's a little bit differently done, obviously, which is what we're going to talk about. But in this case, at this point, I can raise up to 9 skeletons, and I've got like 22 points in there. But initially, you can only raise 1. So when you have 1 point in Raised Skeleton, you can have 1 skeleton. That's it. And then as you progress and put more points in there, you can summon more and more skeletons. That is a very fun sense of progression that makes you want to put more points into that ability. And then as you go on, you have more points, but you only have so many points, so there's this whole thing of like trying to figure out where do I really want to put my points. It means so much more. I'm not saying it's better than Diablo 3 system. I'm just saying that it's different, and I'm not saying that it's bad or that it's aged poorly. And so that's something I wanted to point out. But anyways, let's get into actually what we're here to talk about, which is how does a Necromancer play? Well, I'm using Clay Golem here. Golems are in Diablo 3, but in this game they're a little bit differently. So you can summon up a Clay Golem right away. There's my Clay Golem. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to raise up some skeletons. So here's some enemies. Look at my Clay Golem just taking those guys out. And so these guys are dead now, and then we just right click over them, and now I have 3 of my 9 skeletons. And so we keep going and we look for more enemies. I'm using Teeth as my attack. Obviously the Necromancer has other abilities besides raising enemies. You can summon, or you can use like bones and poison, all kinds of stuff to have even more abilities to actually fight yourself. So that's kind of nice as well. So we're going to keep going here. And we've got a pretty sizable army. I have a hard time reading, of course, if you don't know, I'm visually impaired, so I have a hard time reading the numbers up in here, which is kind of tricky, but it's alright. We're just going to keep going for a little bit, making sure that we have enough. I think we're over 9 now. So next up we have Skeletal Mage, which functions exactly like Skeleton. So we have 9 skeletons. Now we're going to summon up some Skeletal Mages, and we're going to get 9 of those as well. So this obviously, again, works very differently from the system in Diablo 2, or in Diablo 3, where it's very different, and you'll see that when we get to it. So, as you can see, I am slowly acquiring an army of minions. And as I go, I can summon more and more. As I put points in these abilities, it gets stronger. You're seeing the end game here of a Necromancer, and obviously, I mean, I'm not like playing it amazingly, but I'm just kind of doing whatever and showing it off. So here's some enemies. Look at this. Now we're going to summon up the rest of our Skeletal Mages. I'm pretty sure I've got 9 now. Now the last ability that we're going to take a look at is Revive. If I can find it, there it is, Revive. So this is Revive. Revive is also in Diablo 3, and of course it works extremely differently. In this game, there is a timer on it. We'll look at it here. As it says, you can summon up enemies, and they will last for a certain amount of time. I can summon up to 37 because I've got 37 skill points in this, just because I wanted to show that actually this ability does increase with every skill point you put into it. You can summon up that many minions. The drawback, of course, is that they only last 180 seconds, which is 3 minutes, which is a lot of time, honestly. So you think about what you can do in 3 minutes in this game. Usually a game lasts 3 minutes when you're playing it in game, so it's all right. So with Revive, you literally click on things and they come alive, and they are exactly what they were, just like in Diablo 3, but it works a lot differently. So as you can see, what's happening here is that I am building up this army of minions, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the end of it, now on old systems back in the day, this would lag out your internet, it would lag out your computer so bad, it was so awful. But nowadays, obviously, you can see it runs just fine. This whole character playstyle was way before its time. It was before computers could even really handle it. It's what's funny about it. And but the feel of it just was so amazing. Like, just what you could do, just summoning up all these minions and feeling like you're controlling this gigantic army. Now, of course, over time, your revived enemies will die, and you'll have to re-revive them, but that's part of the fun. But it doesn't happen too quickly. So honestly, what the playstyle felt like in Diablo 2 was almost like a snowball rolling down a hill. Like the more you play, the more enemies you resurrect, the crazier it got. And as you go on, you know, you just get more and more powerful, and that was what was fun about it. Now, this isn't to say that I'm doing this correctly. This isn't to say this is the best build that a Necromancer could do, but I would say this is the one that most people think about when they think about playing a Necromancer, is, you know, building up this massive, crazy army, and kind of, you know, keeping everything alive, because as long as they're alive, you're safe, more or less. And it honestly was a pretty easy sort of, I mean, it wasn't like the easiest to play because of the sorceress and the things that you could do with her with teleport and stuff like that, like before Enigma came out and all that. And, you know, it was like, so, but it was certainly one of the more like unique play styles in the game for sure. It felt very, like the only class that could really do this. The only other class that could summon anything was the Druid, and it was nothing like, I mean, it wasn't like this at all. Druid was known for a lot of other stuff besides just summoning. But the Necromancer certainly was well known for his ability to summon up a massive army. And this is what I think, when we heard that the Necromancer was coming to Diablo 3, I think what we were hoping for was something like this. Is this what we got in Diablo 3? Well, let's take a look at it. So, let's take a look at the Diablo 3's Necromancer and see how it compares. Now, obviously, the first thing you'll notice is that I've already got a bit of an army going on here. I've got some skeletons, I've got a giant, it looks like this is a golem, okay? No spoilers, it's a golem. So, yeah, the thing is, I didn't summon these. I logged in and there they are. The reason why is because with Command Skeleton as well as with Command Golem, these minions are summoned passively if you have them in your bar. So if you have these abilities selected, your Necromancer, or, you know, I guess you could say your Necromancer, but they just kind of summon up out of the ground passively. You don't have to find corpses, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to click, they just summon. Now, on the other side of that, of course, is because that's the passive side of the ability, there is an active side which allows you to command the minions to attack targets, increasing damage and whatnot. So there is a bit of micromanaging there. There's an active skill that you can use, unlike in Diablo 2 where you would summon them from a corpse and then they would run around all willy-nilly and the AI would attack enemies. Command Golem, basically the same thing. You can kind of micromanage it. You can also give them runes to amplify or change what they do, but otherwise that's how they work. So big difference right off the bat. You no longer summon your army yourself. You no longer build it up. It builds up itself passively to a maximum of 7 skeletons. If your skeleton dies, it will resummon them, and it kind of works passively as you do whatever else you're going to do. So that's how those work. Now, like I said, there they are. So as you can see, there they are. You can use your active ability. It'll, you know, do whatever. You can also, you know, like in this case, I can do that. That will come in handy in a little bit. So those are corpses, obviously. There are corpse abilities that you can do. Some of them are pretty iconic, but again, we're looking at the summoner style of play here. So let's get back to it. Now, obviously, just like in Diablo 2, you do have skeletal mages, but they work extremely differently. So, this is the skeletal mage. I have the skeletal archer rune. It's whatever. And the way it works is you will raise a skeletal archer to attack your, or a skeletal mage, whatever, attack your enemy, and they last 6 seconds. That's right, your skeletal archers or skeletal mages only last for 6 seconds. And you don't need a corpse to do them, you just summon them up by yourself. So we'll summon up 2. There is a maximum to how many you can have. I rarely reach that because, again, they only last for 6 seconds. And as you can see, they disappear. So after 6 seconds, you can summon it. They will follow you around, obviously, which is nice, and they will do what they do, but after 6 seconds, they're gone. Now, this has some positive and negative aspects to it, in my opinion. And again, please understand that I'm not trying to sway your opinion either way. If you like this, if you like the Diablo 3 Necromancer, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too, because it is in very strong contrast to how the Diablo 2 Necromancer is played. So because Skeletal Archer, they don't last as long, you know, they're there for 6 seconds and they're gone, it does kind of encourage a more active play style in terms of commanding or summoning up minions. In theory, right? That's in theory, of course. But on the other hand, you also, it really doesn't feel like you're summoning anything. I mean, technically, yeah, I right-click the air. I don't have to have a corpse. I right-click and it pops up there, and he follows me around, sure. But it only lasts for 6 seconds. So that doesn't really feel all that different compared to any other ability. So if I use my Bone Wall, for example, it's an ability. This just feels like any other ability, summoning up this minion. It doesn't really feel like I'm summoning anything. It doesn't really feel like I'm building an army, which is kind of the you know, the theme of being a necromancer, or the fantasy aspect of being a summoner necromancer is building up an army. This doesn't feel like that. It feels more like I'm just, you know, raising, like, or just using an ability. With 7 passive skeletons with me, I can summon and, you know, whatever. So that's kind of the downside to that. And then, of course, there's Revive, which is the last summoner-esque ability akin to Diablo 2. You can target an area reviving up to 10 corpses within 20 yards for 19 seconds. So do you remember in Diablo 2, the way Revive worked is you could summon up like up to 30, or really 20 was probably your maximum. Generally, maybe a couple more over 20, and they would last 3 minutes. Okay, in this game, it's a maximum of 10, and they last for 19 seconds. Of course, you have this cool rune that I have. When revive minions degenerate, they go back into corpses, so that way you can summon them again. But it's a maximum of 10. So we'll demonstrate that now. I have a golem. His ability. I use this a lot when I want to get some corpses. When I click, he'll do that, and then I can summon those up. There they are. So now I have a bunch of little golems running around. It's cool that when you use Revive, it actually summons up the minion, the corpse of the minion that you killed, and it actually looks like that minion. Like I have these golems here, and then obviously my golem, as you can see, it summoned up back by itself. I didn't do that. So, and now I have these guys, and they all run around with me. Now this is a fine little army, sure, and then there they are back in the corpses again. So I can just, you know, pop those guys back out. As long as I have 10, I've reached the maximum. So the game kind of revolves around, you've got your automatic skeletons, you got your automatic golem, and then what you can do is you can summon up, you can revive up these guys. You just kind of revive up in an area 10 corpses, keeping it a maximum of 10, and then you use your mana to kind of you know, keep up as many skeletal mages as you can, and you got to keep reviving those every 6 seconds. And so what that ends up being is a playstyle. We can kind of show it off here. We'll just go in. I'm doing a simpler rift just because I don't want to, like, you know, I don't want to put too much effort into this. I mean, come on. But I just kind of want to show it off. So what that kind of looks like then, like as you can see, these guys are already here. And I'm not saying that I'm using all the right abilities or that I'm playing this correctly or anything like that. You know, I'm using my Bone Wall to kind of build up mana, as you can see, and then I can use that mana to create these archer dudes, and then I kind of use Revive to do that, and then I kind of like run around, and so, you know, it's kind of it's kind of cool, I guess, because, like, I mean, look, like, there's a lot of things happening on my screen. There's a lot of, like, guys running around, you know, killing things, and there's a lot of skeletons, and my golem's down there, but like, in compared to Diablo 2, I don't really feel like it's an army so much. It honestly feels a lot like a witch doctor, I guess. Like it's like having zombie dogs in a gargantuan. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't really feel like the Necromancer felt in Diablo 2. It feels more like, I guess, like it kind of fits. You know, it feels like every other class. It doesn't really feel super unique. I mean, it is. I guess it kind of is. It's Necromancer-like. I'm not saying that there's not like an army there, because look, I mean, look at all these minions running around. It's crazy. You know, like, it's whatever. But it's still not like, I'm not summoning a lot of these guys. I'm not like clicking on the corpses and summoning up like one by one a massive army. And the army only gets to be so big. There isn't a lot of minions just following me around. And I guess if I was a great player, I could keep perfect uptime, and I'd have 10 revives, you know, revive dudes, and I have like the maximum number of skeletal mages with me at all times if I was like a great player. and then I'd have like how many, I don't know, like over like, I don't know, like what like close to 30 minions, I guess, like, or somewhere around there, I don't know, something like well into the 20s, having that many minions up at once. But even then, and that's the ideal situation, it doesn't feel like I'm actively summoning that army myself, or even really managing it so much, because the bulk of it is either really temporary or it's automatically summoned. But on the other hand, because this is Diablo 3, and Diablo 3 is very different from Diablo 2, you know, you have to understand, you know, this game's been out now for years, Diablo 3, and it's been out, like, I mean, like, what, longer than, almost like, yeah, I think 5 years. Like, I don't even remember. I remember the game was released the day I moved out, so it was like 5 years. You know, cool, legendary, cool. But like, so I've kind of accepted that Diablo 3 is never going to be Diablo 2. It's not even really the spiritual successor to Diablo 2, and I've accepted that, and for the most part, I'm okay with that, because in some ways, Diablo 3 has some strengths. You know, it's very streamlined. Obviously, like in Diablo 2, I did not want to go through the process of building up a Necromancer to make this video. I used a hero editor. Case in point, right? Because in Diablo 2, it's much more of a time sink. It takes a lot of time. In Diablo 3, it's more streamlined. It's easier to kind of get into. It's more casual. But on the other side, I'm not really actively engaged in the art of summoning up an army here. So there are pros and there are cons to this, and I'm not really going to say which is better or which is worse. And again, I'm only dissecting one playstyle. There are many other playstyles to both the Diablo 3 and the Diablo 2 Necromancer. But you know, I guess I do have to say, even though I'm not trying to sway anybody's opinions, I'm trying to be as objective as I can be and not be super biased on this. I think, and I'd like to hear from people about this. When you heard Diablo's bringing in the Necromancer, like, were you envisioning like the ability to summon your own army, like a legitimate, like, massive force? Like, is that what you were envisioning? And if so, do you think you got that? Because I don't feel like they really delivered in that sense. And I guess the reason why I bring it up is because I feel like they had to know that when people, you know, say, please give us the Necromancer, they had to know that that's what we wanted, right? I mean, they had to know that. They couldn't possibly have thought, oh man, you know, this is the army that people were hoping for. This is definitely what people are going to want, or were hoping for. They had to know that you know, this is really not going to deliver in that aspect. And I think that, like, that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, it's fun, it's okay, it's all right. I don't know. I feel like the Diablo 2 one is a lot more fun, especially at in-game, because you feel the power. Like, this, honestly, and this is another thing, I don't feel like I'm all that different here at level 70 than I was at, like, level 30, when I was able to do all of these things. I mean, from the start, you summon 7 skeletons. Well, you don't. 7 skeletons automatically materialize around you when you log into the game. Okay? Like, that's what happens. You know, and so, that doesn't change. It doesn't increase in number. It doesn't get stronger. Nothing augments it, really. I guess I can use this active ability. It's whatever. Like, it doesn't really feel all that exciting when I use that ability, so I don't really care that much. I guess I just kind of throw it in there when I'm fighting a hard enemy, and that's basically it. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not saying that I'm playing this correctly, but it's not about playing it correctly. It's about how it feels, and that's what I'm kind of going over. I don't know what they were thinking. You know, it's kind of the theme. It's kind of par for the course for this game, isn't it? I mean, like, they kind of, sometimes it's like, it's fun and it's great, and I've gone on record and saying I really like Diablo 3 and it's a lot of fun, and at the same time, so many times it's somewhat of a letdown. It's somewhat of like there's part of you that, like, you know, you really want to just praise it and say it's great, but then there's part of you that just, you know, you're a little defeated. Like, you're like, oh, you know, I paid $15 for this, and, you know, I was really hoping that I would have gotten something else. I was hoping, I was hoping that I would have gotten an army class, a class that could just massive army summoning, and that's not what this feels like, to me at least. Maybe I'm just being overly critical, I don't know. But like I don't know. I feel like it's I don't know. I just think it's time. I think it's, I mean, I like I said, I've accepted that Diablo 3 is never going to be what Diablo 2 was. And that's in some ways that's a bad, in some ways it's not. There are a lot of improvements here. There's definitely a lot more of a casual vibe, and that's not always a bad thing. But I think that, certain aspects of Diablo 2 that were cherished could have been more protected. I think that, obviously, like I said, in this case, they had to know what people wanted with the Necromancer. And so I guess, like, I asked Blizzard, what were you guys really, like, what were you thinking? I mean, why couldn't we get that class that we wanted, that we really wanted? The class that summons up a massive army, which is what we really wanted. Like, I've always said, like, I wish they'd bring the Necromancer and the Druid in to Diablo 3, and now I'm questioning whether or not I actually want the Druid in, because I'm afraid that what I'm going to get is the ability to become a werebear for 30 seconds and then have a 3-minute cooldown on top of that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I really wouldn't be surprised if that's what they did with that, because that's just how they are. Like, it just seems like that's how Diablo 3 is. Like, oh man, they put the Necromancer in, they couldn't screw that up. It's like, well, I wouldn't say they screwed it up. I mean, it's okay. It's definitely not bad. It's not that it's bad. It's just that it's not what people like me, and maybe I'm the only one, but it's just not what we were hoping for. And sometimes that's worse than bad. Like, especially like, when you know what people want, like you've done it before, like it's existed. We have something to compare it to, and it's not here. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Necromancer. It's not horrible. But I could have gone without paying $15 for it. Honestly, I would probably feel more excited about it if I hadn't paid anything for it. Especially considering, like, Titanfall 2 just gave me a whole new map and a whole new game mode the other day for free. Overwatch is free. Getting new heroes like Doomfist is coming free. I had to pay $15 for this class, and it doesn't really feel all that different to, like, say, a Witch Doctor or other classes in terms of how I play it. So, I guess it's whatever. It's not bad. It's not amazing. It's par for the course. And that's all I really need to say about it. So that's what I think of the Necromancer in Diablo 3 compared to the one in Diablo 2. I think I will stick to the Necromancer from Diablo 2 as being the Necromancer that I remember fondly, and the Diablo 3 one feels more like a watered down version of the one from Diablo 2. And so that's what I think. I'd like to hear what you think. I hope that I didn't upset anybody. This is just my opinion, guys. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm not saying that you're wrong for liking it. There are definite, there's definite fun to be had here. And like I said, there are other specs to enjoy from the Necromancer for Diablo 3. But I just wanted to share my opinion because I really like the Necromancer from Diablo 2. So anyways, guys, that's what I think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it kind of like showed what the two, had in comparison and in contrast. And I hope you got something out of this video. So thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful day. This is Kephas. Until next time.